You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Welcome. I'm here with sidekick Doug from The Rational Capitalist and Ashley for our year-end review. A reminder that you can call into the show and leave a voice message at 707-681-5834. Next week, I'm really excited about our guest. It's Lou Perez from the We the Internet channel online, which is a sketch comedy channel. He's a really funny guy doing some really awesome work. He's very political. Go check him out in preparation for next week's show. You won't regret it. And then call in and leave some voice messages for him. For those of you who are patrons, if you are Color Guard or higher, you got yourself a Sunny Elite Squad mug for Christmas. Isn't that right, Ashley?
Yes.
Ashley put those together and sent them out. Also on Friday, December 29th at 3 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to do our monthly live stream town hall. I'll be sending out an announcement about that shortly. So if you're not yet a patron, consider supporting us. This podcast might be worth a few bucks to you. Consider donating $25 a month. You get 4 podcasts a month and a bunch of nice rewards. Thank you to our current patrons. And that's my administrative update. And now we can get into our Christmas review and our year-end review. How you guys doing after the Christmas crazy?
I'm tired.
I need a
right?
detox.
Oh my
Too much
God.
sugar.
It's exhausting. Christmas is exhausting. It's really fun up until then it's over and you're just like, oh my God, thank God it's over.
I am totally spent. If you have little kids too, it is absolutely exhausting.
Yeah. And they're out of school like for the whole week. So that whole last week when you need to like prepare and get stuff done and you're doing last minute everything, they're out of school. So you're also, all of a sudden your childcare changes, everything's different and you're rushing around.
Well, one of the worst parts about it is that as soon as they open the gifts, which is sort of the culmination of all these efforts you've made, then starts the help me put this shit together phase of Christmas.
Yeah.
Which is even more tedious and irritating when you just really want to go back to bed. Although, of course, we love our children, but
they don't make toys for like kids to figure out by themselves. I've noticed like so many of the toys, you can't even get them out of the box.
Right.
You know, no, they can't even take them out of the box. Yeah. Everything's made in China with this crazy plastic and like everything's wired down. Even these little doll houses, it took me 15 minutes to take like the way the furniture was secured to this plastic doll house. Took me 15 minutes just to get the freaking plastic off of it so she could play with it.
And I think through like automation, they've figured out how to make the minimum possible tolerances to use the least amount of material so that those plastic ties are absolutely tied as tautly as possible. So you literally need like a giant steak knife or like a huge scissors or gardening shears or something to get it out.
You need a tool, like a full complement of tools to deal with these things.
Just to get stuff out of the box. That's before the assembly.
Just to get stuff out of the box. Then you got to put it together. Yeah.
And then the kids, their favorite toy is like the last minute super cheap toy that you got. And you're like, what about the huge Lego set I bought you? And they're like, I'm not ready for that yet, Mom.
Or they just go back to Play-Doh because they love Play-Doh.
Yes, exactly.
Jeez. I mean, Lucia probably got, I'm not kidding, it must have been 40 or more presents.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe 50 presents. Yeah, because
how are you counting? You're not counting the individual pieces of like Legos or something.
No, I'm not. I mean, one aunt sent her, I think, like 7 things, and another aunt sent her like 5 things, and then my aunt sent her 2 things, and then, you know, she has her au pair, she has her parents, she has her dad has 3 sisters, so they send her a bunch of stuff. I have a brother, so I mean, she just got like so much stuff. And And
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And then I went a little crazy. And because I'm on prednisone, honestly, my memory's kind of bad. I didn't even remember the stuff I would buy. And like, I kept getting these boxes to the house. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I got that too. And I just bought her like 5 other things today thinking, oh my God, what am I going to get for Lucia? Forgetting last week I'd already got her 5 things. It was just way too much. In fact, I put aside like 4 gifts that I didn't even give her because I'm like, I made a mistake. I bought too much.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're like the guy from Memento that can't lose your memory, like things on his hand and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. With the post-it notes and
You got to do that.
I missed that. I don't know if there's something with the
post-it notes
Skype,
all over
but-
your bathroom.
Oh yeah, I am like that guy from Memento. I need tattoos. I need to put tattoos on my body to remind me of what I've done. So
Right. Of all the gifts, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy. So she had a lot of work to do yesterday, but I'm glad it's over. And this time of year, everybody's sick of doing anything like this. And of course, now my birthday's coming up, which is Ashley knows. Ashley and I,
No.
yeah, Ashley and I, Ashley's is the 19th and
Birthday
mine is
tradition.
the 9th. And for a long time before kids, she and I would just go hang out for our birthdays. She and I would hang out on the 9th and we would hang out on the 19th. And we would go get mani-pedis and go shopping or something and just kind of have a chill friend day. And now that that's over, like, I swear my birthday just sucks because there's just nothing.
No, I miss those birthdays.
Are you guys getting this Skype interference? I'm getting a ton
Yeah,
of
I
Skype
am.
interference. Okay, I'm going to start this call over again and we'll just pick up from where we left off here. Because
Okay.
it keeps coming
Okay.
back. Okay. All right, I'm recording again. So we had that little weird hiccup. Let's move on. I want to tell my sad Christmas story that's related to politics because I got my daughter this thing that my daughter's main thing that she loves to do is cook. And, you know, we have a lot of fun in the kitchen. She makes real stuff. You know, she's 3, but we do real stuff. And the one thing, though, that she can never really get close to is obviously the oven or the stove because I just don't trust her not to burn herself. And she has kitchen mitts and everything, but you have to be so, so careful because she's still not old enough to really take non-burning your hand directions. You know, if I say,
Yeah.
she can sort of stir a pot, but, you know, I have to be like right there to stop her from accidentally touching the pan.
Right.
So to try to give her some independence. What is that noise? Is somebody scraping something?
Yeah.
We're having a great show here. Stop scraping shit. Fucking turn your phones to do not disturb. And now if Skype would just please not screw up on me again. Are you done scraping, Doug? You done? Whose phone
Yeah,
was
let
it
me-
that rang earlier?
You
Let
got
me
a few more scrapes?
Yeah, let me get a couple scrapes in.
What the hell? This is a great. Maybe we should just start over. I don't even know what to do. I'm like, this show's sucking already.
Just edit it. Or have the guy.
I
I don't
can't
know.
edit it. I'm not editing. That is so much work. Ugh.
Can your guy do it?
I have to pay him for $1 a minute to edit.
Oh.
You want to pay him for $1 a minute so you can scrape? Ugh. All right. So anyway, she loves to cook. So I wanted to give her some independence and try to like set up a situation where she could actually bake something as a 3-year-old. So of course I bought her an Easy Bake Oven because that's what they're for. And I had one when I was a kid and they work on a light bulb. So you can burn yourself on a light bulb, but you can't seriously burn yourself on a light bulb, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's some risk that I'm willing to take with Lucia injuring herself as long as she's not permanently damaged. And that's kind of my philosophy with her. And I think that's a good philosophy to have. It's, you know, when kids are learning to walk, you have to let them fall down. They might bonk themselves, they're going to hurt themselves, but they're not going to permanently injure themselves. But if you stop them from mildly injuring themselves, they'll never learn to walk. And so that's kind of how I am with everything. It's she can take risks as long as she's not going to like break a bone or seriously damage herself. Like, I don't mind that she gets hurt. So I had one of these ovens and I got her one, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if they still work the same way because, you know, incandescent light bulbs are banned. So how are these going to work? And I'm looking at it. It says it still works on a light bulb. So I'm like, well, they know what they're doing. I'm just going to order it. So, and by the way, this thing is not cheap. It was like 60, 70 bucks or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it arrives and we get it out of the box yesterday, and she's super excited, wants to make her little brownie cookies. And it's not an oven. It's like a freaking contraption with a hole on one side and a hole in the other. And you put the pan in one side and you shove it in, and then you wait. There's not even a timer on the frickin' thing. So mom has to set a freaking timer because she doesn't have a timer. Right? Now I have to get a timer. Why wouldn't you build a timer into the damn thing?
You can't.
It's horrible.
That much more.
So it's not an oven. There's no oven door. There's no opening the oven, taking out the pan with your little mitts on, you know, like mine was. That's how mine worked. You open the door.
What is this thing?
It's like a...
Sounds like a plastic box.
It is a plastic box that you can't get inside of. There's like a little Cylon eyeball thing on one side and a Cylon eyeball thing on the other side. Like, not really, but like
Battlestar Galactica reference.
It's a slot on one side and a slot on the other side. That is, and otherwise it is just a big giant hunk of plastic. So
Wow.
It doesn't resemble an oven at all. It doesn't reproduce the oven experience. And you shove this pan with little food on it through one side, and they give you this like long stick so you can shove it all the way in. And then mom sets a timer.
Was the stick extra?
Right, exactly. Well, I'll tell
it?
you what's extra is the little baking packages where you make the. Oh my God, you guys! I'm not
Brownie.
recording. I was recording. No, I was recording. Okay. Yeah. So the little packages, like yesterday, it was like brownie cookies or whatever. The little packages cost a lot of money, and it's the tiniest amount of food. And then she shoves this thing in, and then you set the timer, and then she can push it further through out the other slot. That's how this quote unquote oven works.
Huh.
Does it cook anything?
Yeah, it like cooks the little cookies with a light bulb, I guess. But you can't get in the thing. You can't open it up.
Probably for liability.
Oh, it's a total like government thing.
It's a cover your ass oven.
This like easy bake ovens are dead. They're gone. This is not what I had. And we used to have these it would come with little cake tins, and you used to actually have rising cake that you would make in these things. And this thing, it's like the flattest little pan you ever saw. You could never make a cake in this thing.
Do you think you could buy one you had on
an old one?
eBay
I mean,
or
it would
something?
have to come from maybe. I'm sure you could do that. What would it cost? $1,000 to buy an old Easy Bake? And then you wouldn't be able to find the light bulb to go with it because they're banned.
I'm imagining the personal injury attorney ad that like if you've been injured in an Easy Bake oven.
Oh my God.
Because
Right.
that's probably what's driven that design over the years is they've probably had so many accidents and stuff that, you know, they had to basically turn it into a box that's impenetrable.
An impenetrable box. That's what I bought for my daughter. An impenetrable box. I would rather just supervise her at the oven.
Yeah.
You know, so I think now I have to figure out how to return the stupid thing because I don't want her to have this dumb toy. But she's all, can we use my Easy Bake oven today? Like she's all into it.
Well, she doesn't know any better, so maybe she'll think it's great, you know?
Yeah,
right?
Whatever. It's the
Just
dumbest
embrace
thing.
it.
Now I have this stupid thing that doesn't do what I wanted it to do. So that's my sad story. I feel like it's a combination of government regs and lawsuits, and this is like why we can't have nice things. You know, it's like just that. Oh God. I mean, it's really, and the coddling of children and like, don't let her near a hot light bulb at 3 years old. I mean, really? So
Buy her 40 gifts.
Buy her 40 gifts. Yeah, that wasn't
You're part
bad.
of the problem.
So many presents, you guys. Ashley gave me some good advice for next year. She's like, you know, when you realize you have, this is the first year that I've kind of realized that with all the relatives and stuff, that's part of the problem. It's like mom and dad get her a bunch of stuff, but everybody else does too. And then it just gets out of control. And Ashley gets, what do you do? A piece of clothing, a book, a need, and a want.
Yeah, it's something you need, something you want, something to wear, and something to read.
And that's it. Done.
Yep.
And then everybody else buys stuff, and then that's it. That's what I'm doing next year.
Speaking for the kids of America, that's a horrible idea. Something to read? Come on.
My kids
Christmas.
Please, Doug. You like to read.
Not when I was 8.
I did.
Well, I mean, my 3-year-old doesn't read yet, but she loves looking at pictures. She loves it when I read to her.
I gave her Llama Llama Christmas drama for Christmas.
You guys are one step from the Burgermeister burger.
Because we give them books? Yeah, of course.
There will be no more toys.
It will be clothing and a book and a need. Only a need.
A need. 2 kids with needs. Yeah, that's right.
We will start with a want, and then next year, no wants.
Right.
We just take out
only
the want
needs
part.
like socks.
Yeah.
Ashley's already like got socks on the list and what?
Yeah.
Like a how-to
underwear.
book.
Yeah.
Underwear. Yeah. There was nothing worse when you were a kid than getting clothes as a little boy.
Especially, why is it always socks and underwear?
underoos.
It's always socks and underwear. It's not even like cool clothes. I was told by my brother that my nieces want clothes. So I got them like an identical pair, each of them, a pair of incredibly sparkly shoes. They're like silver sequins shoes and then a pair of leggings. So that's not socks and underwear, right?
Well, but my grandmother actually would buy me clothes when I was a little kid. Like that's what we always got from her. And of course she had a J.C. Penney grandmother aesthetic when it came to clothes. It was just the worst.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grandma.
It's like as bad as the bunny suit from the Christmas Story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Classic.
All right. Well, let's do our year in review. We've got a lot of what I thought we would do is we're going to talk about some of the top stories from 2017 and what we think they mean for 2018. And we can do domestic and foreign. I think probably one of the most interesting story is the Russia stuff. And Doug, you posted on Facebook the other day this thing about this new thing about the WikiLeaks. Yeah.
This was a story I didn't even really know that much about until I just happened to Google it. Seymour Hersh, who's a Go ahead. Did you want to ask something?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead and explain it.
Well, yeah, Seymour Hersh, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, New York Times, New Yorker. He was the guy that uncovered the My Lai massacre, in the late 60s during the Vietnam War. And anyways, he's a very famous investigative journalist, and he got into I think there was like a lawsuit going on over the Seth Rich investigation. And anyways, make a long story short, someone recorded him, this Republican Butowski or whatever, recorded Seymour Hersh telling him about what he had uncovered about the Seth Rich situation. Essentially what Cy Hersh had said was that he had a high-level source within the FBI that had read him the report that the FBI did when they got into Seth Rich's computer, and it uncovered that he was the one that was leaking to WikiLeaks and actually wanted money for it. Now, Cy Hersh did not think that Seth Rich was murdered for this. He just thinks he lived in a bad neighborhood and there had been a lot of murders. So he wasn't making that connection, but he did believe that Seth Rich
was the leak.
what was the leak. And, Julian Assange also intimated that as well.
Right.
And all the email traffic from Podesta and everything stopped right after I think that guy was murdered and everything else.
Yeah.
Anyways, Sy Hersh then came out and pretty much backed off that story and said, well, I hear rumors and this guy made 2 and 2 into 45. He didn't realize that guy had recorded him. And now I don't know why Sy Hersh has backed off this, although Sy Hersh did go on the record with The Intercept earlier last year and said that he thought that it was unbelievable and preposterous that the mainstream media were accepting this story, this Russiagate story that was largely a CIA or intelligence lie. The other sort of bombshell.
It's not even. Is it an intelligence lie, or is it like it's all? I mean, I basically think that these people know exactly what they're doing. It's not that the media has been lied to and is like falling for it. You know what I'm saying? They're pushing it. Anyone with a brain and eyes paying attention knows that this Russian thing is, first of all, let's back up. So the important thing about the Russia thing is that there's no Russian collusion. Not really. I mean, nothing more than a few like stupid, lame tinkerings, which who cares? They certainly didn't control or manipulate or affect our election in any real significant way. They weren't necessarily pro-Trump even. I mean, like there's just nothing there. So there's nothing there. But then you have this deep state and the media pushing it to try to oust a president and discredit a president. And the fact that you have the deep state operating against a president. I mean, to me, that's the story. It's and that everybody's willing to do this in an environment where we actually do have a really dangerous adversary in Russia. And it's stupid to be risking this. You're creating public opinion in the United States that Russia interfered with our elections. If you ask the average person on the street, did Russia interfere with the 2016 election? They'll say, yeah.
Yes.
They actually think that happened because the media's been pushing that narrative, literally that narrative with no evidence all year.
Right. It's obsessed with the Washington political establishment for a year. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So Americans think that Russia interfered with our elections. They're mad about it, whatever. If we end up in a war with Russia, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Well, and Hersh even went beyond that and said that he believed it was a Brennan operation, that John Brennan was behind it, and that
I saw that.
This was intentionally, essentially set up.
A setup.
And that, these guys, these government agencies.
You mean the dossier and everything?
Well, no, forget about the dossier. This is just this whole Seth Rich WikiLeaks thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I think the dossier was part of it. But this whole Russia collusion narrative was something that was pushed out by these high-level intelligence guys because they feared Trump and they knew they would lose their job and they didn't want to lose their job.
And so we have a situation where the media and the FBI and the CIA would like us to go to war with Russia. And the only thing keeping us from war with Russia is Putin and freaking Trump.
Well, I don't know if they want us to go to war. They definitely wanted to.
They're willing to go to war with Russia in order to get rid of Trump. I mean, they're willing to risk that.
I think the plan though originally was just that Trump loses because this was all hatched during the campaign. So they thought that this narrative would ultimately tank his campaign or tank his presidency, and that they could engineer this. And it's large, but it has worked. It hasn't served to oust him, but it's certainly
not yet. But it's
close.
He's being investigated, and they're doing a witch hunt in the White House and indicting people. And this to me is number one on the top kind of crazy things. It sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, except that it's not.
Well, it is a conspiracy theory that's close to being a conspiracy fact. It is a
Close
conspiracy.
to. I mean, the FBI won't communicate with Congress.
No, they're stonewalling them.
So it's just, this is what is going on. And anyone who's saying that the FBI isn't like corrupt, obviously they're not all corrupt, but I think Obama spent 8 years making sure that organization, I mean, I'm sure they were somewhat corrupt under Bush and somewhat corrupt under Clinton. Like, I'm not naive like that. It's not just Obama, but it does seem like Obama took things to a new height in the federal government.
Yeah, he politicized the agencies. And I think the big picture is that we had a sitting president and his intelligence services, namely the CIA, NSA, FBI, and this Justice Department, colluding in effect to investigate or harass a opposition political candidate, and then further to try and besmirch or destroy his own presidency once he won. And that's the stuff of banana republics. I mean, that's secret police tactics. And it's frightening.
It is frightening.
And to me, that's the story.
And the fact that they're still operating out in the open doing that. I mean, with the Mueller investigation is ongoing. And to me, that's part of that.
There's a lot of pushback now. I think it started now with them uncovering the conflicts of interest within the FBI investigation itself, with the Strzok guy getting kicked out and Andrew McCabe likely resigning. So there's starting to be some pushback as some of this stuff gets uncovered. So
what's your prediction on this?
Oh, my prediction is that this just all goes away. There's definitely enough, I think, to probably put a lot of people in jail on the Democratic side for conflicts of interest and for obstruction of justice. But I think the quid pro quo will be Mueller and his band will go quietly into the night. And I think the Trump people will in turn back off on prosecuting some of the people on their side, and this whole Fusion GPS.
I really wish they would prosecute. I wish at least they would go after Hillary and her Uranium One stuff. But okay, so let's move on to the next one. The other big story to me was 2 really, really large terrorist attacks, one in Manchester and one in Las Vegas, and a lot of small events, and ISIS being on the run or whatever, or crushed, but countries welcoming back ISIS fighters into their country, including Canada. So I'm going to go out on a limb and predict for 2018 just more huge terrorist attacks.
Wow, that's pretty bold.
Yeah, I know. That's a risky prediction.
It's sad that we can be sarcastic about it, knowing that something is going to happen, that it's essentially a foregone conclusion for us that, these things are going to happen. I mean, that speaks to, I guess, the lack of, what would you say, the lack of will?
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I don't know what has to happen before people are like, yeah, I don't think we should welcome ISIS fighters into our country. That is like totally weird to me. Why would you do that? I don't know. There was a girl was stabbed in uptown Minneapolis. I'm from Minneapolis. There was a girl stabbed by a Somali man. She was stabbed 14 times on her way home from her job at the Apple store. And, this is uptown. Like, this is a normal place where people are always walking around. And some Somali guy just jumps her and stabs her. And they haven't caught him. And
didn't they not even name the?
Yeah, they didn't even mention that it was a Somali guy. And she did. She's like, yeah, it was a freaking Somali. So that's what's happening in Minneapolis. But when a politician suggests that maybe they should stop the refugees from, more from settling, he is lambasted in the press.
Right. That's a mortal sin.
But this 14-year-old young woman, cute, white girl, stabbed 14 times walking home from her job at the Apple store in a decent neighborhood.
Right. Well, it just speaks to, speaks
I
to.
don't know. Decent is the right near.
It's not a neighborhood where you can expect on 32nd and Fremont. That's not an undecent neighborhood. That's not 32nd and Lake. I mean, you know, well, I mean not Lake, but down the other end of Uptown is more sketch. But where she was, it's not a dangerous neighborhood. You could walk around that neighborhood at 10 at night and not expect to be stabbed.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what it takes for people to, like, is it that they don't want to make the connections? I mean, it's amazing what multiculturalism has done to disarm people. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's completely neutered people's ability to, even feel outrage over this kind of thing. Our inability to even recognize or identify the connection between, or everyone does, only publicly you can't identify the connection between, third world migrants or people with, radical Islamic ideology and the penchant for violence or, committing acts of terror. For some reason we've completely shorn our ability to make these connections, and it's just so it's willful. It's sort of like we could stamp this out in a day.
Right.
Just stop allowing these people to come in and start taking an aggressive posture towards anyone who espouses this ideology.
Right. Right. I mean, I think even like the cop that shot the Somali cop who shot the white woman and killed her, they're not indicting him.
Yeah, that was a crazy story. Whatever came of that, because it seemed like he just shot her point blank.
He just shot her out the window, past his partner.
And yet, did we hear the police brutality argument from the left on that
They're not even indicting him. They're not even going to, take it to a jury or anything.
And I'm sure there'll be a lot of protests over that, right?
Right, yeah. All the white people will go in the street. If the white people went in the street and said, hey, we're being targeted, they would be called white supremacists.
Right.
Which
Yeah, that narrative is really just taken over. It's unbelievable. It's very frightening.
It is frightening.
I don't know where it goes.
And I see that even among people on the right. Like, you can't even talk about this stuff without being called a xenophobe or a racist or you're a white. Even Rucka last week was like kind of saying some stuff about, he was mocking people like Milo Yiannopoulos who are like, who will say he's pro-Western civilization. And I believe that. And I think Milo, for all his problems or whatever, his fundamental strength is anti-identity politics. The fact that he's willing to be racist or to be called racist when he's not being racist, but merely calling a spade. And, even Rucka, who's like a libertarian objectivist type, is like making fun of that and calling that racist and white supremacist. So it's really infected our culture really badly. And so a Somali stabs a girl on the street and I saw people on the right saying stuff like, well, it's not like white people don't stab people. Like that's what they've got. Well, you've got to judge this person as an individual. White people can stab people too. So therefore you can't say this is a problem with Somali refugees.
Right.
Anyway. All right, let's move on to, we've cut media corruption. White supremacy, we could talk about that. There was the Charlottesville. I think more statues are going to get torn down. It seems like people are done with Antifa though. Nobody seems to be supporting them right now. Maybe that's over. But there'll be more stuff on campuses, obviously. And there's like a really big push to literally ban free speech. There's a real big hate speech movement, and that's going to gain ground, I think, next year.
Yeah, I think that's where this is ultimately going, and that's what we have to be on guard for, because the eruptions that you see and the sort of environment that's been created on these college campuses, which is one of violently persecuting or trying to shut down heretics. You know, anyone that disagrees with the radical left is regarded as a heretic or a Nazi of some kind.
Well, it's regarded as violent and dangerous. So, you know, people are really hurt by this speech is what their argument is.
Yeah, and, did you see that NBC article where they were essentially like making this claim? Yeah. And one of the claims that I love is the idea that certain types of speech raises your blood pressure. And since that's regarded as stress.
That's not new. I mean, there was a psychologist report that came out like a year ago that, this causes stress and stress can kill you. And so if stress can kill you and you could be caused stress by somebody saying mean words to you, then it is violence and it should be banned. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what to say to people who put forth that argument. I just want to exile them from my country. How you have just zero appreciation for what it means to have free speech and the protection that affords you from political persecution. How could you ever say that mean words should be banned?
Well, I mean, extrapolate that argument. Does that mean if you tell a kid to do his homework because it's going to cause stress, that you're hurting him, you're physically attacking him? If you're an employer and you tell your employee you've got to come in at 8:00 or you're going to get fired, I mean, you're causing stress. I mean, reality causes stress.
Right.
The nature of reality and the fact that we have to have certain standards and certain norms of like dealing with one another and cooperating. I mean, you know, nature forces us to eat.
Yeah. These are the people, though, who are creating, you know, coloring book puppy dog safe spaces for young adults. They really do want to, like, I think that do they really believe in a dream of a world where there's no stress? I can tell you right now, a country where free speech is banned is a hell of a lot more stressful than a free country.
Well, you know, I guess we'll all live in a utopian community, you know, where the government will feed us, you know, give us our rations. We'll all go to work and do the same thing in the field. I mean, I don't know where these people are going with this. I really don't.
Right. What's their end game?
Maybe that is where they're going with it.
And do they really even go that far in their brain? Because if they really did, they'd look at Venezuela. That is the reality of what they're talking about. And they don't seem to care. So over and over again, they want to implement this.
It's all a red herring. I mean, I think the people that dismiss this, even on our side, that think we're being extreme by calling this out, or, you know, these people, these are just dumb kids on a college campus. Really, you know, they're kind of silly or stupid or whatever, or this is comical. It's really not. I mean, if you see where this is going now, it's going towards banning free speech. And of course, they're not going to come out. They're never going to come out and say, yes, we have to get rid of the First Amendment. Every single one of them starts with, I believe in free speech. Free speech is very important, but.
Right.
And then after but, they want to ban any speech that's controversial or offensive to anyone,
right.
Which is the only reason, you know, we don't have the First Amendment to protect people's right to talk about the weather. I mean, it's meant to protect people to be able to speak controversial things. And
I really believe that at the root of all of this, and I'm sure there are some well-meaning people who, yeah, that sounds wonderful. Let's all live in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood where everything is quiet and nobody ever insults you or nobody's hungry. Everything's friendly. If we have an argument, we discuss it. And that's probably some people. But really a lot of the people, and especially the leaders of the left, it's all about resentment and envy. And you can see that in, like, particularly when you see, when I see like Black Lives Matters people talk about shutting up white people because white people are taking up space, you know?
Right.
And like by taking up space and speaking, you're oppressing other people's speech just by existing.
Right.
And taking up space. You are taking up space someone else would be using.
Right.
And so, I mean, that is they really just want to crush people.
That's the root. That's the roots, though, of genocidal thinking.
Right. Oh, it is genocidal. Roots. I mean, it is genocidal thinking.
It's not one person. It's an entire race of people that are your enemy. That's that's the kind of philosophy
that are taking up, quote unquote, space. So what is the solution to that? To get rid of them. Get rid of them. And they are calling for genocide of white people. I mean, that's not like a stretch. They're calling for that.
Well, there are some that explicitly say that. I mean, they maybe it's somewhat tongue in cheek, but it's really not. I mean,
I don't. I'm saying that
it's not tongue in cheek. Yeah, no, I agree.
And some of those people are white people calling for a genocide of their own race. In fact, a lot of them. They're the white college professors that push this shit, call for genocide. But I've seen it online where I've pushed a POC, a person of color, like, what do you want? Like, what's your end game? What are you expecting? And ultimately it is camps. Ultimately, that's what it is. All right. That's a happy story. So yeah, I think next year, I think more hate speech banning discussion will be going on. And what about North Korea? What's going to happen in North Korea?
I think there's going to be a conflict.
I do too.
And,
it's coming to a head. He's just, that guy's got to go. And I think everybody realizes it.
It's interesting that, there seems to be this catch-22 theory about it where, well, we can't attack him because he could launch a bunch of missiles at Seoul or whatever. But what if we just essentially surgically struck him in a way that said, okay, we just bombed this, that, and the other thing. Now what are you going to do? And just leave it to him. Say, okay, now what?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Not completely annihilate him so that he pushes the panic button and just launches everything he's got. But maybe just take out a few things here or there and say, okay, this is step one.
I don't know. He's kind of like, he's possibly somebody who would just push the button the second one bomb went off in his country.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I've heard some talk of that, but if he launches another missile at Japan,
I just don't know. I mean, you can't. Okay, I mean, I get that we don't want to risk Seoul, but I don't know how else. You just have to do it. You just have to take the guy out. I mean, maybe China can do something here, and I'm sure they're working on it. I feel like they're working with Donald Trump now on it. It seems like it.
Well, they keep saying that. They keep saying that, but then he launches another ICBM,
I know, right. And I hear they're launching a satellite, and I saw a story the other day that he's working on putting anthrax on a missile. It's like, they're just constant stories of this guy agitating the world.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. I don't think Trump's going to stand for it.
Right. I agree. Right. But I think they would have to start it, is my sense. And it has to be something severe. Like, he's going to have to launch a missile that hits Japan or hits people.
Now, will Trump goad him into doing that?
No, I sense that Trump is being a little bit more careful now than he was in his first year when he made some pretty Rocket Man and all that stuff. I think it's great. I love it. But it sounds to me like they've gotten to him and just said, leave this dude alone. And, if he does something crazy, we'll just annihilate him. And that's the way it is.
Well, so we have to wait for him to do something horrible first. I guess because if we strike first, he'll do something horrible. So either way, something horrible is going to happen.
Well, and China has said explicitly that if he does something and we retaliate, they're essentially our ally. But if we make a first strike against him or a preemptive strike, that they're going to regard that as an act of war against them or something. So who knows, right? I don't know the inner workings of the geopolitics of that, or, but it sounds to me like we'd have a much easier case and a lot more support in that region if we were responding to an attack or retaliating rather than just saying, all right, we can't tolerate this dude anymore. We're going after him. I think that could provoke something more serious. That would be my sense of it.
Yeah. All right. Any other stories you've got on the politics side of things?
No.
We can move into arts and entertainment. I was just going to talk about shows I liked that came out in 2017. Show recommendations. Obviously, Stranger Things. Have you guys seen that?
No, I haven't. I started to watch it, but I haven't gotten into it yet.
It was pretty good. I mean, season 1 was great, but partly because it was like earth-shattering. And season 2 is just kind of more of the same. And there were a couple of weird sub-dramas in that one that I didn't really fully buy into. Which I won't.
I didn't think it was as scary.
Yeah, it wasn't as scary.
I wanted it to be a little more scary.
That's true. That's true. I didn't like the relationship between the cop and Eleven. I thought their fights were weird and kind of fake. I don't know. Just didn't really buy into them. But the show was overall good and the ending was good. And obviously it's not over.
Right.
So I just hope the next season isn't the exact same storyline again. I kind of feel like it's the same storyline. Bad crap happens. Kids try to fix it. Will is at the center. And then in the end, Eleven just has to come in and exert her mental powers and banish the alien.
Yeah.
You know, this is an aesthetic point. I want to get your take on it. Because I was talking about this with someone with regard to Star Wars. It's, you know, when we have a great work of art, let's say it's a TV series that's awesome, or a movie that's awesome, you know, the first Star Wars or one of these series that comes out, we all have a natural inclination to want to experience it again. Mm-hmm. You know, we want to have that again. Like, that was such a great experience. Can we do it again? And I guess like a lot of things in life. And the thing is sometimes with a work of art, so to speak, or like a narrative or a plot or a story, we just have to live with the fact that there's one
only
of them.
One.
There's one. You know, there's one great work of art there, and it's like, yeah, maybe, you know, if it's the kind of narrative that opens itself up to subplots and other stories and sequels and stuff, that's fine. But there is definitely this like natural impulse to want to relive your experience again. And it's sort of like, you know, those great night, like you had a great night out when you were in college with a bunch of friends and you went to a party and it was all great and some crazy stuff happened and you talk about it for the rest of your life. You'll never recreate that. I mean, there's no way to, you know, there's no way to just like go through that whole experience again the same way. So, because I was talking about that with Star Wars, it seems like they keep making the same movie over again. And
yeah, I feel like those really great art pieces too are made because there's something really unique and interesting, and they're made kind of rough, and they're not overly produced and polished. And then you get all this money kind of, and production sort of pours into it, and all these eyeballs and all these people who want to weigh in. And it never, ever is the same. It's just never going to be good because it's not the creation of an artist anymore.
Yeah, totally.
And so, I don't know. It's so rare when a sequel actually works. I think with Star Wars, we actually got lucky that 1 and 2 were great.
Right.
And anyway, yeah.
You know what I was thinking about? So I was watching the end of Return of the Jedi. And I have kind of a beef now with this. I mean, obviously you can poke holes in this, but so Darth Vader, right? He eviscerated an entire planet. He spent his entire adult life seeking galactic control. And, you know, you got Obi-Wan Kenobi holed up in a cave for most of his adult life, and Yoda's in a swamp. This guy's essentially ruined their lives. And murdered just untold people. And at the end of Jedi, when, you know, Luke takes off his mask, sort of like, okay, well, Darth Vader says he's good now. And then the little teddy bears, you know, kicked ass on the stormtroopers and all that. And here's Darth Vader just kicking it with Obi-Wan and Yoda and that like little spirit thing, you know, how they're just sitting there and they're all buddies now.
Right.
Don't you think you would need some time to process that before you just welcome Darth back into the club? Like, you know, like kind of like a galactic Nuremberg trial or something. This guy's like a war criminal. He's murdered untold hundreds of millions of people. Now he just says he's good.
Yeah, now he's on the good side of the force because he killed the emperor.
And it's like, yeah, we'll forget about all this. You know, the fact that we're all sitting here as spirits, that you pretty much killed us and forced us into this life, and now they're just I don't know. Personally, if I were Obi-Wan and Yoda, I would want...
You would carry that resentment for eons beyond the grave.
Well, I would have needed some time. I wouldn't have just accepted him to the end of the Ewok. You know, they're having the Ewok party.
Yeah, it's kind of soon. It is soon.
It's a little soon, Darth. You know.
I have not seen the new Star Wars yet. I'll probably see it this week sometime, but
I've heard good things about it.
I've heard good and bad. It's like everything. I mean, with these things, I think all the ones that have come out recently, people love it or they hate it, and their expectations are high. And like you said, it's kind of the same movie over and over. And we'll see. We'll see.
I think the review is a function of the person, because if you're just a guy that just loves the Star Wars thing and you don't think too hard about it, you love it.
Yeah.
If you think too hard about it, like probably I do, you'll find all sorts of problems with it, not like it or whatever. So,
but I think you're right. I think we need to settle for like being okay with there just being one. You know, you read a good book, you get a little depressed at the end. You want back in that world, back in that life.
Yeah.
And especially if you feel like the story isn't finished, you want closure on those characters and the plots. I get that. Yeah. But unfortunately, so often we don't get that closure. We're left even feeling less satisfied because the closure that's given to us is one that we weren't expecting or don't want.
Well, yeah, because sometimes you want to leave it up to the imagination, you know, to just say, okay, you know, because once they close it or they make it completely clear what happened, it sort of ruins the imagination a little bit of it. I love the way The Sopranos ended. I don't know if you guys followed that show at all or not, but
I watched it, but I never saw the ending.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
We won't get into it,
All
but there's a lot of shows I think end rightfully. They end sort of mysteriously, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't
fine
need
with
to.
that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I prefer it.
What do you think, speaking of Hollywood, so we have all the sexual harassment stuff and we have award shows coming up, and it seems like Meryl Streep is kind of being pulled down a couple notches. Weird stuff happening in Hollywood with this Me Too movement.
Yeah.
It's probably going to quiet down at this point, though, because it's getting a little bit out of hand. And people are starting to be vilified for just being sort of crude rather than actually harassing.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw something last week, Cenk Uygur or whatever, the guy from the Young Turks. He's not Hollywood, but media. And some of the comments that he wrote or made about women, just saying something about titties, and like, I don't know, just wanting to be with chicks and like all this just kind of crude.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a guy I would date, but whatever. I mean, doesn't reflect like a hatred of women. It's just some sort of, the guy's crude and he's kind of like that. And some chicks dig that. I don't know.
Well, I think what it reflects is the fact that there's a chasm of difference in rape and sexual assault, or even, intense sexual harassment in the workplace, and guys talking about sex, or people talking about sex, or talking about women. And I don't think that the radical feminists make that distinction at all.
No,
I think
they
most
really don't.
normal
and
people
it's dangerous not to. And like with Trump and his pussy remarks, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we have this sexual harasser in the office," and blah, blah, blah. But that pussy remark, for me, that falls into the crude, guys talking to guys. I don't think it's great. It would be a major turnoff to me as a woman to hear a man speak like that. I wouldn't want to date a guy like that. but it's not assault. It's not harassment. It doesn't even necessarily show what a guy thinks about women.
Well, I'll give you a better example. Did you see that story about this kid? I think it was at Harvard or something, and it was sort of a mea culpa where he confessed, I put that in air quotes, confessed to sitting around at a orientation for Harvard or something, sitting around talking with some of his buddies about who they thought the hottest chicks were at the orientation or whatever. And he came out and actually was sort of confessing to this to this as if that was some moral crime of the century.
Yeah.
And
how sad.
I mean, that's just preposterous to me. Could you imagine?
Because that's not even bad. I mean, that to me is right there. That's not crude. That's normal. Normal
and he's like,
to sit
I'm
around.
Part of the problem.
I mean, girls sit around and talk about what guys they like. Guys are cute. I mean, that's like normal behavior. That's so messed up. So I guess today it's getting, and this is like getting borderline crazy along with the whole racist stuff, is this idea that like sex for whatever reason is becoming also a problem, where you have to have this weird verbal consent on some campuses. And so, you have to basically sign a contract. Yes, you can kiss me. I actually mean yes. And now this kid, can't even talk about girls he likes. That's messed up. I mean, where does that lead? How do you grow up? How do you meet people? How do you date people? How do you enjoy your life if you can't flirt and maybe get it wrong? A guy needs to be able to flirt and get it wrong and not be like, accused of sexual harassment because he gets it wrong. He flirts with a girl who's not interested.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would hate to be a guy right now with that kind of like fear of if I flirt with a girl who's not interested in me, I could end up being accused of sexual harassment.
Right. It almost seemed, I mean, I guess the end game for that is like we go into mating chambers that are, managed by the government or the state. But it seems like, philosophically, it almost seems Platonistic the way they approach human life and human relationships, that there's this almost puritanical, religious,
it's really, really puritanical,
platonic realm of where this is how we interact with one another. There's just a reality to human interactions and human relationships between men and women, how they flirt and how they go back and forth, and guys get crude or go crazy, or women are crude or crazy,
It's
and
really reminiscent.
That's reality.
It is so reminiscent of the most religious dark ages. And I mean, it really is. Like, I can picture a future where people are walking around in high black collars and not talking to each other. And like, you can't interact without permission and chaperones constantly. And sex is dirty. And this is where these young kids are taking us.
So I wrote a post on my blog about this, and I described there was a beauty pageant in Saudi Arabia about 10 years ago or something like that. And it was Mrs. Morals. And the whole idea of the beauty pageant was all the women were in full burqas, no skin exposed or anything. And the idea of the beauty pageant was that women are to be judged or evaluated based on their virtuousness.
How feminist of them in Saudi Arabia.
Or dedication to morals or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's kind of the feminist ideal. They strip away looks and anything shallow and artificial for judging a woman.
And that's right out of Plato and Christianity.
Yeah.
And
Islam, I guess.
Whew. It is. Well, Islam is sort of the dark ages, modern dark ages, but that was at one time, that was Christianity too, in essence, right. This idea that, and anyway, it's very puritanical and very religious. And I think there's a connection there. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a connection.
We're definitely heading back there because of these people. I mean, I'm so glad I grew up when I grew up. I had an easy bake oven with a real freaking light bulb
that opened
that I could burn myself on without, maiming myself, but that nobody was like hovering, and guys could flirt with me and get it wrong. I don't know. I mean, I've also been sexually harassed, but I've been flirted with a lot and they've gotten it wrong. And so what? Anyway, I don't know what my daughter's going to grow up in. I might have to take her to another country so that she can meet a guy. Right? I mean,
right.
Like
exactly.
She's growing up in America. What sort of men is she going to be running into here?
Where would you take her? I mean,
I don't know.
These other countries are worse.
I don't know. I mean, even
maybe you have to go to Russia. I don't know. Maybe
Russia.
Are there
real
Viking
men
guys? Yeah,
killing bears in their without shirts on in 10 below weather.
Yeah, you ride horseback with your shirt off, and
I'm sure they don't have problems flirting.
Maybe Australia
or sexually harassing, even. Raping.
Yeah.
In Russia, rape is the new flirt.
Yeah. I don't think they really make a lot of heavy distinctions between rape and flirting.
Yeah. That's where I'd like my daughter to go. I don't know. I don't know what to do. She's definitely going to have a different life. It's interesting. It's weird. Culture is changing so fast.
Yeah, I think there's a level of emasculation going on, and this gender, what do you call it?
Fluidity.
Gender fluidity and emasculation. This is the real danger, and this is the big picture, is not these individual cases or whatever. It's this whole movement towards just erasing the differences between genders. And I find that, and it's actually contradictory, because on the one hand, don't the feminists tell us that, you should hire women, or women are special, they're unique, they have a different perspective, women in the workplace, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, they say there's no difference between the genders. So how is that possible?
Well, I mean, they are, the whole argument of them being hypocrites and whatever, it just gets back to like, what's the real goal? Because they also don't mind subjecting women and girls to pervs being in their bathrooms. I mean, that argument fell on total deaf ears last year. It didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. We've got to let in 0.0001% of the population transgenders. We have to make them feel like women's bathrooms are a safe space for them, and therefore not outright ban guys from women's bathrooms. When, by the way, nobody had a problem with transgender people using the women's bathrooms before all this mess. So it's a fake problem. And then they've just opened it up for pervs, and they know that. They know that, and they don't care. They don't care, because what is the ultimate goal? What are they really after? It's really just about hating people or something. It's so valueless, and so they don't mean what they say ever.
Well, it's the same contradiction with their whitewashing of Islam, where this is the most misogynistic religion out there.
Women are empowered by the hijab. Give me a freaking break. Linda Sarsour, this horrible, horrible radical Islamist running the feminist movement in this country.
Yeah, again, I think it might be maybe that's their goal, is the Saudi Arabian beauty pageant.
It really is.
I don't understand. I really honestly don't understand what the end game of it is. I think, like you said, it's tearing something down.
It is just nihilism or something, or some kind of, and the Puritans and the people who really hated people for sinning, that feels the same to me. It feels like just a hatred of humans. And like you said, a platonic kind of, humans can't be this perfect platonic ideal. And so let's crush them because they're just human. And
we're all flawed. We all have original sin by our nature. So we have to live a life of penance and guilt.
Right.
The same sort of repression of the Catholics that, is cliched now. The Catholic or religious guilt that you feel. It's the same sort of guilt they're inculcating in their own followers.
How weird that the left, who's like the supposed counterculture against the boring square adults who, free love and pot and all this stuff that was going on in the 60s and 70s. And the end result of that shit is like an incredible amount of control and anti-sex puritanism. It's totally insane.
But But it makes sense on a philosophical level, but like on a superficial level, it's completely crazy, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, what
So-
other shows did we like in 2016?
I'm a big fan of
2017?
2017. Yeah.
Come on now.
Oh my God.
I'm
Stay
a
with-
fan of
keep
Game
up.
of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know, I've never really watched that.
Yeah.
What you really love? I know people love it. What do you love about it?
You know, I like that there's multiple storylines, and now it's like finally coming together. Like, you know, different characters are meeting up, and you're getting answers from questions that you've had from the first season, and it's good. You should watch it. It's hard because in the beginning there are so many storylines, but it's worth it.
So it's a soap opera, but
Totally.
it's a soap opera where
It
it's
is a soap
violent
opera.
and anyone can die at any time, which
And
is
they do. That's what's
Yeah.
like the shocking death is like something that they've perfected on Game of Thrones. So the tension's really high because no character seems safe. Right. Ash?
Totally.
I mean, they killed, like at the very beginning, they set up these heroes and these good guys, and next thing you know, they're like dying. And you're like, what? That's not how it usually goes.
Yeah, there's always a level of comfort in most films because you know the star isn't going to get killed.
That's right.
So no matter how scared you are, you always know it's going to work out at the end of the show.
They had big actors that they were killing off at the beginning too. So
Yeah.
nobody is safe. And that, I think, and just when you think, oh, they've really established this one and, you know, who's taken the place of the other one that died. And now I get it. Now they killed Ned because his son is going to be this hero and blah, blah, blah. Oh, then they just killed the son and then the mother and then the whole freaking family. I mean, so yeah, Game of Thrones is nuts.
Yeah. And there's dragons.
In dragons, yeah. I really enjoyed Mindhunter. That's I think you would really like that, Doug, because that's like an FBI drama right out of your, like, I don't know. You're just really into this kind of stuff.
I started watching Mindhunter and it's like 6-7 episodes in.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I wanted to ask you, well, okay, I won't ask you this because it'll involve a spoiler or whatever, but it's really a little too dark for me. And I'm wondering where it's going. I mean, it's addicting because you almost feel like you can binge watch it, right? Because it's so captivating when you're in that mode. But then I shut it off and I'm like,
you feel bad.
Oh my God, this is just horrible that I'm watching. And I think that's how the cops feel too.
Yeah.
After they talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering where this is going. If they're, again, I don't know how it ends because I haven't finished watching it. So I'm sort of wondering in my mind if they're going to be affected by this in a dark way, or if
I think not necessarily in a dark way, but definitely the storyline starts going toward like how these guys are handling this life of interviewing these crooks these not just crooks. What am I thinking? I mean, the most evil people on the planet, and having to like. I mean, for people who haven't watched the show, Mindhunter is about these guys start this FBI division in the 60s about for psychology, so for like profiling. And the way that they begin is they start interviewing psychos, like the worst killers behind bars. They interview them to try to understand their motivations, to see if they can come up with some standards where when they see a crime like this, they can go, okay, this is what we're looking for. This is a white male, 30, like they're looking to profile this type of evil killer. And to do that, they have to interview all these evil killers. And to do that, because all these people are like on death row, they have no incentive to talk to anybody. They have to go in and kind of make friends with them. Like that, they have to have an interview style that is kind of friendly.
Yeah, and it ends up normalizing the discussion. It
normalizes it, and then so as the season goes on, there's definitely subplots and discussions about how it's affecting their psychology and their families and their loved ones.
Yeah, because you feel the way they do, because you're sitting there just kind of listening to this real banal description by a serial killer of why he does what he does and how he did it, and you're okay. Yeah, I could see why you'd sever her head, and it's and they're just like, and they're eating pizza,
not just sever it, but then have sex with it. Like,
I didn't want to say that because
it's like,
but they're eating pizza while they're talking about this, and then they leave and they kind of look at each other like, did that just happen?
Right. Right. They're eating pizza with the guy. Yeah, we'll order him a pizza. We'll loosen him up. It's crazy. Yeah.
Right.
I feel this. I felt the same way about it. I got halfway through and I kind of had to stop. I'm like, oh, took me to a dark place.
It is a bit of a dark show. I don't know. I don't normally like dark. I don't normally like dark. I find this less dark than Game of Thrones sometimes. I think Game of Thrones is pretty dark.
Yeah.
Hulu killed Rockford Files, by the way.
Oh, did they?
I remember how I was talking about that last time.
Yeah,
they took it off for some reason. But, what about comedies? I think there was some Curb Your Enthusiasm came back for, I think it might be its last season, or he'll just probably do a season every time he feels like it. But
Jerry Seinfeld's special on Netflix is worth watching. There's not many recorded stand-ups of his. So that's out there from this last year.
They did a documentary about that short-lived Dana Carvey show in the 90s, which I
want to watch that on Hulu. That's a Hulu thing.
Yeah, that was actually pretty amazing that he had assembled all these guys who later become huge stars to do an 8-week run of his show, and the show was so over the top, because it was right coming off of Dana Carvey's big run on SNL, and they thought they were going to get the church lady, and instead it was Louis C.K. and Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell were the writers, and it was this bizarre, really obtuse comedy that ended up getting canceled.
Yeah.
Right out of the gates. And so they did a documentary about that whole experience. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I want to watch that. Sarah Silverman has her show on Hulu too, which I also want to watch. So I'm going to I'm going to get the free 2 weeks. And I was kind of excited to watch this, but then I saw a clip, a little commercial for it, which is her and another comedian. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. It'll come to me. And it is so nasty. It is so condescending. So the show is where she goes into middle America and tries to meet Trump voters and make sense of country folk. And it is so she keeps saying how she's sincere about this in interviews, but she's not sincere.
There's no way. Yeah. Right.
And everything I've seen of her talking about these people, she really, really does look down at them. And it's sort of gross. To a level that it's inhumane. It's I don't know. I just can't. She's icky. I would never even feel that way about her. I could never feel that way about a human being, the way she feels about the people who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. You know what I'm saying? And she voted for Hillary Clinton, and she's the worst leftist, and I can't even feel that way about her. Knowing what I know.
That's so representative, though, of that mindset. That in itself is probably interesting, the fact that it represents or symbolizes the disconnect between the sort of left-wing Hollywood entertainer and the sort of perception they have of middle America and how wrong and disgusting and patronizing that is.
Yeah.
The very reason he won.
It is the reason he won.
Her attitude.
It is. And she doesn't even know that and understand that. And she has created a show to pretend who are these people? I'm going to go meet them and interact with them and joke around with them. But she can't even do that.
Honestly, it's all disingenuous, probably.
It's gross. And so I'm going to watch it because I just feel like I need to know what she's doing and what's going on and understand it a little bit. But
there was a guy who wrote a book that did that. He was an NPR guy.
I heard that.
And you remember that? And he did the same thing, but it was really genuine. And he ended up changing his whole kind of life philosophy, that he realized he had it all wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Sarah Silverman, all of those virtue signaling comedians, it's just, I feel like comedy is dead. I have said this before on the podcast, but I'm really excited about the future of comedy because that comedy is dead. They're not funny anymore. And it's just not fun. The punchline just being, ha ha ha, Republicans, deplorable, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
That's literally the level of comedy coming from them. And so it's just kind of over for them.
They've been exposed. Did you see that Kathy Griffin now was going after Andy Cohen of the Watch What Happens Live, that she has this big feud with him? She's completely lost her mind. I think she needs to be institutionalized.
Really?
Yeah, I read this article where she was going after him of all people.
What do you mean going after him? Like verbally or?
Yeah, I guess he said something about her or to her at one point on his show that was somewhat snide. So she got into this social media beef with him. And then she came out and she was, saying that she knew this guy that dated him, and, she was making fun of him sexually, and just like real personal attack. Like,
what is she thinking?
I don't know. It was just off the charts. Stupid. It wasn't funny. It was really mean.
Well, someone who gets that much plastic surgery, to me, already has a mental disorder. And I would include Bruce Jenner in that category. Like, anyone who hates themselves so much that they have to, literally carve a new person out of the person they are.
Yeah.
There's something really, really messed up mentally with that. And I don't know what number surgery it flips for people, but, I'm okay with plastic surgery, but I don't think everybody getting plastic surgery is insane. But at some level, it really is a self-hatred kind of thing.
Yeah, because you're never good enough. And you're living through other people's perception of you. And that perception is never good enough. It's never quite perfect enough. So you keep going and going and going.
And Kathy Griffin has that level of plastic surgery and has for a while. I mean, her whole entire body is fake. And her face, everything is fake. So, and then the way that she handled the Trump thing, the head and the backlash, she didn't learn from it at all. I mean, she just really has been, poor me, I'm a victim. Even though good friends of hers were like, nope, that was too far. She lost a really good friendship over it with that CNN guy.
Maybe that's the symbol of 2017 in the Hollywood left, is her standing there with a severed Trump head.
Yeah.
In many ways, that to me is this.
They jumped the shark in that moment.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. So we'll probably see more crazy, screechy comedy and entertainment because they're going to start really losing their minds as they lose audience.
Is SNL suffering? Are they actually doing really well because of
I don't know what the ratings are.
Because it seems like the late night TV, the Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, all those people have now completely flipped, where they're not even hiding it anymore.
They don't hide it. Yeah.
And
their ratings aren't bad. I don't think the ratings are bad, but if you compare them to 10 years ago, they're bad. They're getting their audience, but anybody, a lot of people are going to cable and the internet because, so I don't know, they're getting a portion of people, but it's not.
I used to watch late night quite a bit, and I honestly haven't watched a late night show in years.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched it. I liked Jimmy Fallon. I still kind of like him.
Yeah.
I think he's really talented, but unfortunately he's not courageous. I mean, not even as courageous as Jay Leno, who I didn't really consider courageous, but at least Jay Leno would equal opportunity make jokes about politics.
Yeah, he was pretty straight.
You couldn't even tell what his politics is. I don't think I know what Jay Leno thinks. He would tell a joke on both sides. Probably leaned left, but he wasn't above telling a joke against Obama or Clinton or whatever.
No, and I thought a lot of the the late night shows could poke fun of stuff, but it was really a way to relax and get away from the world in a way, and just listen to some funny jokes and listen to interesting people goof on something or some musicians.
It was fairly light humor about politics too. And the politics has become so heavy and the jokes are so nasty that you can't laugh at the joke without really laughing at your values now, you know?
Yeah.
Like they've really made it into, it's so heavy now. Even, you know, I used to be able to laugh. I used to watch The Daily Show, and Jon Stewart, I thought he was pretty good. He could do, I could laugh at jokes against my own side. But even he was getting, you know, not all the time with him. He's kind of sneery and condescending. But late night used to not even have that level of heaviness. And now every joke is political and heavy.
Maybe I think that's the huge takeaway of 2017. Like everything has become politicized.
Yeah.
Literally everything, from baking cakes, you know, to late night TV, to TV show. I mean, everything is political now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to start to wane a little bit. I sense that it's starting to wane as the hysterics die down from the election and the campaign. I think everyone wants to just move on. I sense that. I might be wrong.
You know what I think will fix a lot? And it's kind of crazy, but a better economy. If we get a better economy, if we have a little bit of a boom, which kind of seems like we're getting some of that, people stop obsessing about how shitty things are. And they just stop paying attention to politics as much too.
Yeah, you know, in some ways, I almost think it's the opposite. I kind of agree with you. But on the other hand, I almost think that things are so good. We have so much time on our hands. Maybe people are just thinking too much.
I don't think things are that good, though. I think people were used to a certain amount of like confidence about the future, this idea that you could work hard and get ahead. And that just kind of got crushed since 9/11. We haven't had we haven't had a good year. And kids are growing up now with 2 decades where there's no prosperity. There's definitely general awesome prosperity and nobody should complain. I mean, we all live in America and it's great here. But that feeling like it's just going to get better and better and better. And if you want, you can have what you want. I mean, that's kind of not been around for at least 15 years.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's not that spirit where you feel your future's completely open and you can just pursue whatever you want. And because you're bogged down, you fear, the healthcare situation is getting worse through government intervention. And
there are people in certain kinds of industries where it's really scary and their whole world could get blown up, or especially, I think, you know, the working class, it's been really tough.
Right.
And I mean, all the reports on that level of what people are making at that level, that it's been stagnant for a couple of decades. So you're just not getting ahead. And that's scary. And I think people also tend to be more amenable to socialism when they feel like, you know, it's scary to like cut spending and cut government programs when you don't know if next year you're going to need it. You've been paying into it all this time. And if you cut Social Security, well, what happens to you? Because you can't get ahead and you can't save. And so I think people will be more interested in doing the hard political choices too, if we live in a more prosperous, exciting economy. Anyway, that's... Yeah.
No, I agree. I think there's points on both sides, because I think on the one hand, the economy's been in such a state that it's hard to feel like things are thriving, and that, you know, we just want to be left alone and leave us free. We're producing, and everyone's lives are getting better, and your standard of living is improving. And that has been happening, but very slowly and not at a rate at which I think anyone really feels it. And at the same time, there are these amazing technological breakthroughs that have occurred over the last 5 or 10 years that have slipped into the culture and completely changed the world and our lives, like social media, and in ways that we don't even understand, that I don't even understand. because here I am, here we are talking on a podcast, for God's sake. I mean, there's, between all the various social media platforms, the way we interact with people and connect with people, and the psychology that creates, and the kind of expectations that might create.
The cultural changes.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's really understands it yet. And so there are some amazing things going on.
Right.
At the
Even
same
in
time,
medical science, like medical science is really exciting. Biochemistry is really exciting. And yet at the same time, I feel really doom and gloom about medical care. There's like this weird kind of contradiction there.
Yeah, because of the level of government intervention. I don't see, no one's out there in popular circles pushing free market solutions. I mean, the Republicans are as bad as the Democrats.
The CDC has come out and said that our life expectancy has gone down now the second year in a row. And if that is not a result of Obamacare, it's a direct result of Obamacare. And I can speak to that because as someone with a chronic illness that I've been dealing with throughout, this entire time, my care is worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not dying, but if I were, I think, it's the same thing. I'd be more likely to die because my care is worse.
Did you ever watch a 1950s or 60s TV show where the doctor would come to your house? Right. Where it'd be like, your kid's sick, and they say, oh, call Dr. so-and-so. And he literally comes to the house and checks on the kids. Yeah, like 8 is enough.
The doctor comes out, sees all the people in the house.
Yeah, that was the way it was. Yeah. So how can this situation be better? It's way worse. And it's
so
all
much worse.
A result of the government intervention in the economy in the form of the third-party payers, these insurance companies, and the explosion of healthcare costs because of government intervention. And no one sees that. No one's trying to solve it, which makes me very pessimistic about it. Right. And makes me think that it's headed towards even more government intervention.
I think we're headed toward government health. Obviously, we're headed toward government health care.
We've already got it in a large part. It's already
it is so messed up now. I think it's worse than government health care.
Yeah,
but I'm frightened for the government health care. I really, really hope that something changes. And maybe if we get some prosperity, maybe if things start going well, people will re-embrace free markets again and start talking about these solutions. Because I think fear is making people choose in America, making people choose all these socialist programs and all this spending. You don't hear a lot of talk about cutting spending, even though it's so obviously out of control.
Well, right. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion probably because of the level of the government debt and the fact that it's not even spoken about anymore.
Yeah, we don't even talk about it. Not even Rand Paul talks about it. And he was like the big spending guy. But, we voted for Trump. We didn't vote for Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz would have repealed Obamacare. But we wanted Trump. And I don't know. I mean, there's some good there, but there's some bad there. He's not exactly a principled free marketer. So, or a constitutionalist even.
No.
All right. Well, on that note, we've been talking for over an hour and we're just going to end it here. Next week, you guys, I have a guest I'm so excited about. Lou Perez is coming on of We the Internet. Go check out his stuff because it's going to be a great show. Thanks for joining us today. If you're enjoying the show, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/House of Sunny. And we will check you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the House of Sunny podcast. Go check out Sunny on YouTube at her channel, House of Sunny. Everything Sunny does is fan-funded. And because she's likely to get kicked off and demonetized on every platform at some point, please support her over at patreon.com/House of Sunny. Become one of Sunny's elite squad and have access to behind-the-scenes footage, t-shirts, special events, and more.